Hello and welcome. Let's learn how to bake a peanut butter and jelly Swiss roll. Here are the ingredients you'll need if you want to follow along. Please preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit or 190 degrees Celsius. And let's get started. The first thing you're going to need is a 9 by 13 pan. You can use a jelly roll pan or a cake pan. You want to line it with parchment paper. Now I prefer to use a cake pan because I find that everybody has one and the jelly roll pans are a pain to clean. In a small bowl, we have a half a cup of flour or 75 grams. To that, we're going to add a half a teaspoon of baking powder, 2 grams, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1.25 grams. And then I'm going to mix it together briefly and then set it aside. Now you want room temperature eggs. A tip is if you don't have room temperature eggs, you can put them in some hot water and let them sit for 5 to 10 minutes to warm them up. You just want to dry off the shells before you crack them into your bowl. You're going to need 3 large eggs or 150 grams. Beat them on a medium speed until they start to become nice and fluffy, and then you're going to add in your sugar. You want to add in 1/3 cup of sugar, 67 grams. Beat this continuously until it quadruples in size and becomes a nice pale lemon yellow. You also want it to ribbon off the batter really easily. You'll start to see tracks form, and then when you try to draw a figure 8 on the top of the surface, you will be able to do so without it breaking. At this point, you are done. It will be worth all that trouble, I promise. It'll be one of the most tender cakes you'll ever eat by just doing that one little step. Next, we want to sift in that flour mixture a little bit at a time, and we're going to fold it in. Now, you could use a spatula for this point, but I've found using a whisk is actually better. It keeps you from knocking out all that air that you just put into your batter. You want to go around the outside and then through the middle like this. Continue to do it until you no longer see any flour. Don't go fast, go slowly so you don't knock out that air. Now, once you have added all that flour in, it should still be a nice fluffy batter. At this point, you're going to add in your vanilla. I like to pour the vanilla on the outside and then add in 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 5 milliliters. Again, you're just going to go around the outside and through the middle to mix in the vanilla. It will look like this once you get it all mixed in. It'll still be nice and fluffy and it will stream off your whisk really easily. Now we're going to get our pan from earlier and we are going to spread this out evenly the best we can. And then you want to bake this for 8 to 10 minutes. Once this is baking, you want to use a lint-free towel that is clean, and you want to cover it with 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar or 16 grams. You want to cover the entire towel generously so the cake won't stick to the towel as it cools. Once the cake is fully baked and you can put a toothpick in the center and it comes out clean without sticking, you want to remove the cake. Now you want to loosen the edges. If you have a nonstick pan, do not use a metal utensil. I don't have a nonstick pan, so I'm not worried about it. Flip the cake upside down while it's still warm onto the sugared towel and slowly peel off that parchment paper. This cake smells absolutely amazing and I cannot wait until it cools and I can frost it and get it ready for cutting. Once you pull off that parchment paper, we're going to roll up this cake. Now it's going to be a little warm, so it might be too hot to handle. You can let it sit a few moments if that is the case. Roll it up gently yet firmly as you go. Take your time here, don't go fast because if you go fast you are risking cracking your cake. Now sometimes cakes will crack no matter what you do. I actually have a video coming up where you'll see I cracked a cake from baking it too long, so the key is to try to bake it just until it's baked and then roll it up slowly while it's still warm. But if cracks happen, it's okay. They still have a delicious taste. Put this on a wire rack and let it cool completely before you ice it. Once it's cool, let's make our peanut butter frosting. We need 1/4 cup of peanut butter, 66 grams, and a half a cup of softened butter, 113 grams. Beat this together until it's nice and smooth and creamy, and pay attention here because if you don't beat it well, it will be lumpy. Add in a half a teaspoon of vanilla, 2.5 milliliters, and continue to beat it until it's nice and smooth. Once you get it to look like that, we're going to add in 1.5 cups of powdered sugar, 187 grams, and you want to beat in a little bit at a time because if you don't, you're going to make a huge mess, and even when you beat it a little bit at a time, you can still make a huge mess like I did here. Scrape down the sides occasionally so that you can get all that powdered sugar incorporated. It will be a pretty thick icing. If you wanted it thinner than this, you can add in a couple tablespoons of milk, but I found for Swiss rolls, it's better to have a thicker icing so it doesn't get in the cake and make it overly moist. Next, we're going to take our cake that has cooled. It's been about an hour, and we are going to unroll it gently and take our time here, because if you go too fast, you can crack that cake that you took all that time rolling up. I know it seems like it's really slow and tedious, but it's worth the effort. That end piece will want to stay rolled up, and that is perfectly normal. Now we're just going to spread this in an even layer all through the cake. If you have an offset spatula, these things are amazing. And if you don't, the back of an ordinary spoon will work just as well. Make sure to get the frosting up into the little roll area, or you won't have any icing at the beginning of your cake. Once you get this into an even layer, you're going to add on your jelly. Now I'm going to put on some jelly. I'm using strawberry jelly, but you can use any kind of jelly you like. This is the strawberry jam that I made earlier. I'm using 1/4 cup of jelly, 76 grams. And again, you want to spread this out evenly. When you spread this out, you might want to leave a little gap, but I went ahead and spread it all the way to the edge so you can see what happens. You're going to roll this back up without the tail and do it gently. Now you may see some cracks in the beginning. That's pretty much typical, but if you didn't overbake it and you took your time rolling up that cake, you shouldn't have too many cracks on the very end. Now you see where I went all the way to the edge, and see how that jelly wants to just ooze out? That is why they say to leave a gap. I personally didn't think about it, and I wish I had in one way, but in another way I kind of liked how it oozed out, because it really did seal that cake together, and it looks really pretty in the end when you cut it. You want to wrap this in some saran wrap and then let it chill in the refrigerator at least an hour until that frosting hardens. Overnight is better because it will infuse the flavors into the cake. Now when you unwrap this, it is typical for the cake to be sticky, and that is why you dust the top with some powdered sugar. Cut off the ends, and the ends will never look as pretty as the inside. The end pieces, you can still eat them, it just has less frosting on them. This is like an amazing cake if you like peanut butter and jelly. This cake is just insanely delicious. It really tastes like a sweet peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Now, if you don't like peanut butter frosting, you could actually use peanut butter instead of the frosting. Now, isn't this just pretty? It's just a really cheerful cake to look at. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. Thank you for watching, and as always, happy baking.